Hi, Sangita. Welcome to Pungidasa's People, Passion and Purpose podcast. For listeners, Sangita and I met through this coaching program through Navgati, and I was quite interested with what is all that she does with biography work. So the first time I heard it, I thought she's a writer, and I was really curious to find out what biography work is about. But later I found out biography is something very, very different from what I had said. So we'll hear from her as to what biography is and who is she, what motivates her to do something that's quite interesting. So hi Sangeeta, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, Sunil. Thank you.
So welcome to the podcast once again. So
Thank
it's
you.
sometimes we never know who's coming to the podcast and what's the story for them to come here. So it's been an interesting journey for me to through coaching and meeting some very interesting people. And I think the first time I heard you say biography work, I was like, okay, I should have you on the podcast. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for your interest and for
Hmm.
inviting me here.
So I think the first question that you usually start off with is about the whole aspect of what biography is. Then we'll come to who you are as a person, what is
Sure.
some of your adventures in life.
Yes.
So what is biography work, and how did you come to that space?
Yes. Yeah. So this is a very often asked question. The moment the word biography comes, people think I'm into autobiographies or are you writing biographies of people? Uh, but this is not really writing a biography. It's about looking at your own life and harvesting learnings from it, looking at what has happened. It's almost like the picture I want to paint is of you are in the midst of the river going with the currents, the flow, and for a few moments you step out of the river onto the banks, and from a distance, from not being in the flow, you are witnessing the river. So how has the river been? Sorry, just one moment. Yeah. So how has
Mhm.
the river been so far? And what are the turns it's taken? Just so looking at it from a distance as a witness, and getting some learnings from it, getting inspired by it, looking at your own strengths, looking at your challenges, and then jumping back into the river with that knowledge, so that the further course is a little bit in your control, or you're taking charge to some extent, whatever extent it is possible of taking charge. So yes, that is what is biography work, if I had to explain that way. Yes.
That's interesting. So it's basically watching our own movie, seeing our own life unfold, and uh, from whenever we start to until what we've come today.
Yes, absolutely, you're right. Yes.
I was like, as and when I got to know about this, I was like, wow, that's something I'd never heard before. Saying something like this is being done. But what was the inspiration for you to get to biography space?
Yeah. So I'm going to keep it very short because it's a long story. But my son, who was born 22 years ago, he was he had superior intelligence, and he would not fit into mainframe conventional spaces. And he was too fast for it. He was, just too much for all the spaces. So we were, rather than the advice given to us was to fix him, and we thought, rather than fixing him, why don't we look at spaces that will allow him to be who he is, and yeah, become who he wants to be and is meant to be. And that's how we discovered the world of Waldorf system of schooling, which then led us to something called anthroposophy. It is a philosophy where uh, you practice spirituality in the midst of life. You're living your life. You don't step out of life. You do exactly what you're meant to do. And in everything that you do, how do you bring in the spiritual aspect? So that was something that really attracted us. Uh, parallelly to the schooling happening for my son. And through that, I found out about this stream called biography work. And initially, it was just as a small curiosity, as a small workshop that I attended. And then it just sucked me in, and it's become my life. And my life's purpose, in fact, I feel is doing this kind of work where I feel I'm touching so many lives. And also, there is a lot of healing that happens when you do this with your own life. Yeah. So, yes.
Amazing. So many things, right? That you shared. You said it's a long story, and I wanted to keep it short. So, and then I think once you said this, you said you found out that your son is somebody who has a superior intelligence. First time I'm hearing something that there is some possibility for somebody to find out that something is like that happens. So, just using this as a general knowledge word for somebody else listening in. So, how does somebody find out?
Yeah, yeah. So it was very strange, when he was going to kindergarten, uh, he was labeled as attention deficit. He was distracting everybody. And then the other part of it was that he was catching everything that was happening in school, though he was seeming distracted. And, the first thing that happened was the school said that he has some issues and you need to go to a psychiatrist and a therapist and things like that and get him tested. And the first thing that happened was with the psychiatrist was labeled as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And the uh, treatment for that was to drug him so that he's no longer hyperactive. So it's almost like saying that okay, we adults can't manage him, so we bring him down, his energy levels or his intelligence to a level that it is manageable. So somehow both my husband and I were really not into drugging our child into becoming somebody we could manage. So we started looking at alternate what is available. And through one of the therapists, we understood that the hyperactivity or the distraction was because he was getting the gist of everything within a few seconds, and then it was no longer holding his interest, right? So it was interesting that it was not a problem with him. In fact, it was like a problem with us adults who were not able to keep up with him, right? So for us, thankfully, we stuck the course together. Thankfully, we also found the right people who could even bring us to an understanding of this. So yeah, so that is, I mean, there are multiple methods of coming to understanding, testing your IQ, uh, things like that. But also there are many labels that are attached to children, more so now, because we don't understand their behavior, we just label it as something. Yeah, so that is something again very close to my heart, and you can see I'm just going on rambling about it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my mom works in kindergarten, and she does share that there are kids that are really active far more than the rest of the
Yes.
others.
Yeah.
And for parents to accept that my kid may not be like somebody else, that comes as a shock, and it usually takes a negative tone.
Yes.
My kid, you're telling me that my kid is not good enough, or my kid has a problem.
Yeah.
Did you switch the narrative? So you
Yeah.
said,
I hope so.
he
Yes.
can't switch.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what are some of the challenges you had when, I think, say 20 years back is still a long time. So, you say 22 is I think we moved quite needle quite far in terms of ADHD, or generally
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
different needs at a different timeline.
Yeah.
So maybe in your early 2000s to face this and then get to work, or get to move ahead with that.
Yeah. So some, I don't know. I mean, one of the biggest challenge was the schools who were insisting that it was a challenge and that they didn't know how to manage it. So we would have to do something about it. And then the medical fraternity, which insisted that your child has a problem and put in this fear that unless you do something in terms of using the drugs and things like that, your child will grow up to be an adult who will not be able to manage his life. He will face these problems, and you'll be, then it will be too late to correct these things. So that puts in a lot of fear as a parent, because you're doubting, am I going the right way? But somehow, I don't know. I mean, like I said, that we were fortunate that we found people around us who were able to show us that, okay, it need not be like that. However, what it called for was that we go through a major shift in our lifestyle, whether it's in terms of our eating pattern, whether it is in terms of, you know, how we stick to a rhythm at home, and how we do not, give too much of activity that can overstimulate his brain. So I think it looked like a lot of challenges at that point. But now looking back, I'm able to see that it was almost like a gift given to us. Uh, and somehow we managed to actually accept that gift and take it rather than rejecting it. So yeah. And of course, also, like you were sharing, with the kindergarten, that it becomes like a negative, connotation, that, oh, your son is always, disrupting the class, oh, your son is always troubling my daughter. So a lot of things coming from people around also, right? So yeah, some of those challenges, but somehow now they don't seem like challenges at all.
So curious, so how's your son doing now after,
Yes.
interesting new, say, unconventional way of learning?
Yeah. So he's 22 now. He's in the last year of his graduation. He's taken up something like a combination of English literature, theater, and psychology. And
Wow.
yeah, he's not like the top of the class, but he's like doing well. And yeah, he's doing fine. I mean, like any other teenager, he has his ups and downs, but any other young adult, sorry, he's no longer a teenager. Yeah. So he's, I mean, doing good. Yeah. So I dread to think of how it would be if, we had gone that path, and, you know, maybe, taken their advice and gone through that whole system of medication, right? So that path, I'm really dreading to think how it would have been. But here, this seems like, yeah, like any other human being on earth, that's how it has panned out for him.
Very interesting story. So good to see that, everything that you did then is actually giving you fruit today, and you feel happy that, you didn't go through the so-called conventional route, and uh, your son is doing well, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I was interested with this anthroposophy.
Anthroposophy, yes.
Yeah, so not bad. So I've actually written it down properly. So you said everything that we do, and that was quite interesting. I think, just so that the listeners know, this is not a stage podcast. I am going with the flow. So what is it about, and how did it appeal to you?
Yeah. So this anthroposophy is something that was given by Rudolf Steiner. He's an Austrian, uh, philosopher. He was big part of theosophy, and very connected to India. And somehow, at a certain point in his life, he felt that spirituality is not something that, one needs to go away from life, right? We need, if you can practice spirituality staying right where you are, with all the challenges that you face of being, in this material physical world, then that is true spirituality, right? And looking at each human being, looking at everything from a holistic perspective, rather than breaking it down into, fragments and then looking at it. So that was something that he spoke about. And he's given indications for many, many things like the Steiner or Waldorf education, then the anthroposophic medicine, then for something called indication of human development, which led to biography work and eurythmy and many, many other architecture and many other areas. So, what appealed to me was that I don't need to go away to the Himalayas to become, spiritual. I don't need to keep going into caves and sit there and practice. I could do it, where I am, and feeling this spirituality in everyday things, everyday life, all the beings around us, you know. So that was something very interesting. Also, another even more interesting thing was he said that uh, for each individual, uh, it is very unique. So do not, okay, I can give you indications. I cannot tell you what you have to do or what is good for you. So it is for each individual to, walk the path, see what is right for him or her, and then, go that path. So for me, the beauty of it is in that, giving a little bit of guidance and then giving the freedom to be expressive of who you are. So yeah, I think right now those two things stand out, yeah, for me.
So, very interesting that you share. And also, I have very strong, feelings about the conventional system of, the present day education system. And it just doesn't allow us to really know who we are. And that sort of is a recipe for disaster in our early 30s, early 40s. With the background of, maybe this and also what you experienced through the biography work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with your opinion of present day conventional education, because they're catering only to the head, right? So human being is the head, the heart, and then the limbs, right? So we in anthroposophy we use the terms thinking, feeling, and willing. So the modern day education caters to the thinking, right, from a very, very young age. Uh, However, the human being develops in phases, and an education system that gives you what is needed at that time, uh, at the right time, and then the child being able to absorb it and absorb it with a lot of joy, right? So that is something that is lacking now. It's like, UKG children are appearing for exams. They have the pressure of, oh my God, I don't know, mugging up so many things, while they should be out playing in the mud, in the sand, and doing something with their hands, because you can see how much they are moving about because they have so much that's happening in their willing activity. But we are giving them something to think, right? So how can we align with what is inside development and what can be given from outside? So that is something that I think the Waldorf education and many other alternative, alternate kind of education systems do cater to. So Waldorf education is also called as a healing education, because uh, you are looking at the developing individual and giving what is needed at the right time. Everything is allowed to grow very organically. And so by the time the child is, whatever, out of school, college, the child is now free to express whatever the child has taken in. And so that does not manifest as health issues later on in life. Whereas we are, I went through a very conventional schooling, and I can completely see, and I was excellent, top of my class, because I, could mug up, and I could just throw out everything onto the paper. But I didn't really have a liking of the subject. I didn't really understand the concepts. So, I mean, what was the point of the education, right? And I'm sure I lost many precious years, which could have been, been used by me more holistically if I was given that opportunity. So, yeah, I think it's high time we look at our education system. Definitely, I agree with you on that. Yes.
So, very organically moving to the next question. So you said you were in the class, some of in the highest, ranking spaces. So safe to assume that you were a first bencher.
Yeah, I was.
So have you still had adventures in school?
Uh, very sadly, not many. All my adventures began much later, So when I was in school, I was like quote unquote very good student. So yeah, I didn't
Uh,
really, yeah. And life
mm,
circumstances also were such that I was
mm.
more mature than, whatever age I was at. Yes.
Where did you study?
I studied in Mumbai. Yeah,
Okay.
all my education was done in Mumbai. Yeah.
So, like, where you from? So you from Mumbai? Or
I am traditionally a Mangalorean, but born and brought up in Mumbai, and then married and shifted to Bangalore, and now been here for almost 30 years in Bangalore. Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah,
You said your adventures began later. So how was it? Your early childhood in Mumbai.
yeah. So my childhood was not really much of a childhood. I had a ailing mother, and I don't know. I was born, very. Really very mature. I think I can't remember a time when, I was very carefree and more childlike. So I was born very mature, and I lost my mother also at a very young age. And somehow I had this thing in me where I would take on, responsibilities. So, but there was some times when I would go to my grandparents or to my with my cousins and all. So those were small glimpses where I would be like very carefree and be a child and be just play without having to worry about anything else. But my childhood began after I got married, actually. My or the
Okay.
being a child began uh, much later in life. Yeah. So
So yeah, very interesting that you said my childhood began after I got married. So I think I have to ask the next question. So how was it? What do you mean by all of that space? What are your adventures in that space?
yeah, so I got married to someone who's a very colorful personality, somebody who loves to have fun. I mean, still does. Uh, just somebody who doesn't worry much, doesn't, and strangely, I mean, also to maybe balance out my, always being cautious, always, weighing the pros and cons. This person was like reckless, let's just do it, not think about anything except, whatever is going to make us happy right now. So, yes, it was again a mixed bag because there was a lot of fun, but then there was a price that we had to pay for it. But yeah, I mean, even now it is like, my husband is a polar opposite of me. So it's like almost like, he doesn't allow me to be this old, grown up person who's boring. He is like, he'll do things that shock me, so I don't think I can talk about all of it, but there are many. Even now, he will do things like that. So, yes, uh, I guess it was nature's way of balancing out things. So, yes, we had a lot of difficulties post marriage and too many challenges to deal with, but there was never a dull moment. Absolutely no dull moments. And somehow, I also felt like I could just be me. I didn't have to do anything much, or I mean, I do what I do, but I don't have to put up any kind of appearances or put on a mask and anything. I was loved for who I am. So yeah, I mean, I'm very, very grateful for that. Yeah.
So how long has it been that you've been in Bangalore?
29 years now. 29 years.
So
Almost
you're
30.
you're in here for a very long time. So you
Yes,
know Bangalore before the traffic began.
absolutely. I'm more a Bangalorean than a Mumbaiker
Mm.
because the moment I came to Bangalore, I felt, okay, I belong here. So, yes, but the old Bangalore, but yeah.
So what are some of your favorite places to eat in Bangalore?
Okay. Mm, I have a lot of places, like a lot of places I had which have been broken down,
Mm.
no longer there. But yeah, more than any particular restaurant, it's these small darshanis that we like to visit. It's not any one particular place. I can't think of anything. Naturals ice cream is something, of course, but it's not very old. But yeah, there was this Sriraj Lassi bar on St. Mark's Road. So there was that one place where we would just go anytime, late in the night. And VV Puram is, the Eat Street there is, yeah, one of our all-time favorites. So we can just
Yeah,
go
yeah,
there and
yeah.
hog. Yeah.
So that's where we grew up. So our college is near
Ah,
Kerala. So and
okay.
everything else, that was the only place we went, and then like it could sustain 8 hungry bodies
Yes.
without too much on the pocket. So
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
so how's your view of Bangalore now?
Well, again, a mixed outlook because I hate that, it's become so packed that it is, the traffic is terrible, the infrastructure is not maintained. So many of our trees have been cut off. However, there is still this, culture that is, still there. Somehow people have been working really hard to keep whether of theater, music, and so many other, the arts alive. So there are so many places where you can connect with interesting people. So I think that is something I wouldn't trade for any other city. Yeah.
So I've never been outside Bangalore, so I don't even plan to get out of.
Nice. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, another interesting question that I wanted to check maybe is what are some of your hobbies apart from being a serious person?
Yeah, I'm not a serious person anymore. I used to be, but yeah, I do have a tendency to become serious. I love to read. Uh,
Mhm.
I have about 6 books open right now with
Wow.
bookmarks. I can read very, very serious philosophical books to very, very, nonsensical books. So I have a range of books that, whatever my mood is at that time, I just pick up and start reading. So I love to read. Uh, I love animals, especially dogs. So that's one of my hobbies. Like, any dog on the road, how do I rescue this or feed this dog or whatever? And I have my own pets also. And a little bit of gardening is something that I have my own small terrace garden, not very big. And yeah, I love colors. So any kind of, colors around me is something that, yeah, I'm interested in. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Uh, Very interesting to hear that you can actually switch off a book and then switch on another and come back to this book a little later.
Yeah.
Me, I think like it's one book and then you finish it off and then close.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. So, which is your least favorite of books?
Least favorite. Oh my God.
The most favorite is an easy one.
Yes. Least favorite is, I don't know. I can't talk about a least favorite, but I can talk about a genre, and that
Hmm.
is these, you know, uh, illustrated comics that are coming, not what Amar Chitrakatha and all were, but now these very, a very happening sci-fi kind of illustrations on them. And somehow the moment I open them, I feel, okay, I can't read this, and I just shut it. So I understand that these might be the most popular now with the youngsters because they can't read too much, so they are being illustrated and put there. So illustrated, the latest new ones, illustrated comics are something that I'm not really able to connect to. So I open them, just the illustrations themselves. I'm not even talking about, what's written in there. Somehow I just, okay, this is not for me, and I close it. So yeah, that genre, I've not been able to understand it. So
Interesting. Interesting you bring Amar Chitrakatha. So yeah, it's like growing up Amar Chitrakatha, and then the whole Tinkle philosophy,
yes,
and Phantom.
yes,
So many such books. Like first introduction to books was through them.
yeah,
Are
same
you
here.
also a Tinkle fan?
Yes, absolutely. I still read Tinkles.
Yeah. So who's your favorite character?
Supandi.
Sorry?
Supandi.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that gives me a lot of questions as to how they were able to maintain so much of authenticity in Supandi after so many years.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like after some point, you're like, okay, I don't have any jokes anymore. This is
It's like,
humor is gone.
amazing. How can somebody be this, dumb or whatever? But he manages to put a smile on your face each time.
Yes, yes. So I think every Supandi story is a different one. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
And it reminds you of a time, I think, when things were so innocent, like,
absolutely.
Sunday is the best. Now you have, stand up, you have sit down,
Yes.
sort like a lot of content there. Then that's the only thing that was available, Uncle Anu, I think, Anu,
Hmm.
uh, and
Yeah.
then there's Shakari Shambhu,
Yes.
Mantri. That was so amazing, and just to wait for something after you finish the book, to wait another say 1 week, 2 weeks, or even month for the second edition or the next edition to come out.
Yes.
So exciting. It was so exciting. There was a lot to really look forward to. And I think today's generation they've seriously lost the whole point of eating. Everything is at a touch of a button, and they don't even know how to wait. Syllabus, it is completely waiting is out of the syllabus.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. So there's yeah, animals that you said, and then gardening. So there's gardening and Bangalore, I think, were some synonymous terms. So Bangalore terrace gardening, you have you wake up in the morning, hold your tea, and go to your garden. There's a swing, and then you basically stay your mornings in that space.
Right.
And IT wasn't really invented that strongly in the Bangalore that you've been a part of. So it was early ITs and
Yeah.
so the chill Bangalore. I think I would like to go back to that Bangalore. I'm like that's enough.
Yes. Same here. I'd love that.
Yes. So anything else that you seem to have to share that I don't know. So it's like a slow chipping of facts. What are some of the exciting things that you've been through in life?
Whoa. Okay. Exciting, by exciting, you mean, yeah, I mean, those are exciting, absolutely. One of the things that my husband and I went through was alcoholism. My
Mm.
husband is an alcoholic. He has been sober for now 20 years. So that was, a very challenging thing. And somehow, uh, you know, we were very, very fortunate that after going through it, we came to something called Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step program, which is again a spiritual program. It, talks about how do you work on yourself. You don't, not just blaming the alcohol or the substance or things that you're addicted to, but how do you work on yourself? And it is a family recovery program. So this was something I feel that started us off on our spiritual journey. I was in my early 30s. I was 31 when around 30, 31. My husband was also in his 30s. So we came to this spiritual program. And I mean, we came because we wanted to solve the problem of alcoholism. And we got into it. And, we slowly realized that this was just changing who we were. It was taking us on a different, plane altogether. So this journey with alcoholism has been something very interesting. I mean, it was extremely heart-wrenching while we were going through it, but what came out of it is so beautiful. And through that, I have been also able to integrate it with my work, my biography work. So I do work with couples, people who have challenges with addictions, or their family members have challenges with addiction. So somehow it seems to be, a thread that has, tied in now towards, this part of my life. So that was one thing. I met beautiful people who, have unconditionally supported us and loved us, at those times. Absolutely no strings attached, who are not family members, who are not in any way connected to you, and have given, unconditional support for us. So we have met beautiful, wonderful human beings. We made such deep connects with people. And then, of course, also this anthroposophy and Waldorf education. And then we adopted my daughter, when she was 3 months old. So then another, world of adoption, and how do you, integrate that with who you are. Then came, walking the path for the children and then for yourself. So organic and biodynamic, foods and farming. And it's almost like a whole new world has opened up of such interesting people, so many things, that we can, learn each day, each moment from everybody. So uh, yeah, I mean, some of the adventures, totally adventures, I could relate to falling down the rabbit hole, like Alice in Wonderland. And it's like, I open one door and this world is opening up. I drink something from one bottle and then it's like, another world opening up. It's really so beautiful. And then mental health illness in certain, places, in relationships. So each thing has opened up such a beautiful, interesting world, So, and somehow it all seems to, fall in place almost like pieces of a big jigsaw. It is like, okay, one more piece has come in and fit, that kind of thing. Yeah. Can't remember any more challenge, interesting adventures. Yeah.
I think these are interesting in its own way.
Yes.
I was not sure. I had seen Alcohol Anonymous through all the US based TV series, and I didn't know that something like this exists in India and Bangalore.
Oh, it does all over the world, and zillions of families have been impacted by the help. Yeah.
So I am a teetotaler, so I've no background with this. So yeah, but for me it was news. I haven't heard from even somebody else from a network. So that's the thing to see. And yeah, I think I also was sharing with somebody today saying sometimes you get the most unconditional support from people either who've gone through the same stuff or they know they've received support from some they were going through the same, or they haven't received support when they were going through the same, so they want you to go through the same stuff.
Right. Yeah.
To get that space. And yeah, I completely know the feeling of sometimes these adventures meld into certain places where you're meant to be, and that's how your path gets carved.
Right.
So that was some of the, say, maybe intense discussion. So, what are some of the places where you goofed up, proper goofed up?
Oh, wow. I think I'll have to call my husband and ask him. Oh,
There have been many places I have goofed up. So big time.
yeah, goofed up as in, I can tell you, my academic, journey was a big goof up. Because I was good at mugging and I was top of the class, it was taken for granted that I would, take up science. That was, other people's ambition for me. I didn't care. And I mean, I just went with what people told me, that you are, amazing at academics, so you must do science. So I really took up science. Then so I didn't put in the efforts to become a doctor. I'm so glad. I'm really very happy I did, because then maybe I would have been stuck there and it would have been difficult for me to come out of there. And then I did my BSc in microbiology, and there was this huge expectation from people that I would do my MSc, PhD, but my heart was not in it. And now, place where I am, I'm interested in people, I'm interested in their stories. I love listening to people. I create that space for them. So I feel that, oh, I only wish I had done something to do with psychology or some humanities. So I feel that was a huge goof up, because of course I'm sure there was some reason why I ended up there and did what I did. But somehow I feel that, if I had taken on the humanities, then maybe, life would be different. And I wouldn't have to take this up now in my 40s. I took up, biography work and working with people, and the healing part and stuff like that. So I feel that is a big goof up. So hence, I feel very important that you let your children, you know, uh, even explore what it is that they are meant to do. Give them that time, that freedom, and say it's okay. You can go wrong and still okay. Let's try again. Let's start again in a different place. So yeah, that is one thing I can think of. Mhm. I'm sure many goof ups, but nothing big to brag about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wanting to ask you. So if you have questions for me that you would like to ask, this is something that I try in some podcasts. So you have two questions. If you had to ask me, what are some of those questions, be?
Yeah. So for me, the question that comes topmost is, what is it about podcasts that you find interesting? Like, you have not done any groundwork. You've not asked me, not given me questions. You just put me here and you're trusting that, this podcast will go how it is meant to. So what inspires you to, or what is it that, makes you do this with people? Just, connect with people and
Yeah.
take this on.
I think there is a very strong level of connection that emotional intimacy that comes when you work with people. And like some of the times I work with people who have been very diverse in terms of their experience. Just to listen to them, I think I am somebody who's a story writer, slowly getting into that part wherein I am a storyteller as well. There's so many things that we've gone through, so many interesting things that we've gone through. I may not give you life lessons, like 10 things to do in life that you are going to change with. There's something organic about the whole space, about just talking it out, being curious. I don't know what's the next question.
Yeah.
And I am curious, you're curious, and takes you in conversations where we're going off the beaten path.
Yeah.
So don't say, this gives you that space where you are your most authentic self. Most curious self, and it brings you the person. It's not you the role, it's not you the responsibility, it's not you the awards.
Yeah.
It's authentically you, and
Yeah.
and that's a whole new connection, right? So That's the most touching of conversations.
Yes.
It doesn't feel a transaction anymore. So it feels like I know you and you know me, and
Right.
somebody listening in also knows that this is also a podcast. This is also something that can happen. Where you could just talk to somebody for 1 hour and then just go with them, see their whole life, and you also feel that I am not alone. There's somebody like that who's gone through a similar situation, who's
Right.
had different adventures, and I don't have to feel bad about myself that I don't have anything to say that I have accolades. And most of the time, we bring people who have accolades, who've done brilliant
Yeah.
things, uh,
Yeah.
far beyond normalcy.
Right.
But here it's normal people, it's everyday people, and everyday people have a lot more going on, say, in terms of what we can take into.
Right.
It is like that. You become so much closer to the person that you've made a podcast with,
Right.
because they've shared something that's maybe not in a textbook. They're learning on the go,
Yeah.
and yeah, that makes it exciting.
Nice. Interesting. Also, how open would you be to sharing about your life? Just questions thrown at you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't mind. I don't mind being the guest in anybody's podcast. So, and the thing is, the only thing that when people now have given me that idea is that when I am on a podcast or when I am giving a speech, there should be a clear-cut timeline. Sunil, we start now, we end now, because there is a lot of things that I end up sharing.
Right.
I'm very, very famous. So every time I go to any place where, in any function or any place where I am given the mic and said, they'll give me the last 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, share whatever you want to share.
Nice.
So
Great.
I am,
Good to
I
know
am
that.
quite open.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was good. Very interesting questions that you did post. So yeah, like majority of the times it's I want to just put the question back to you, switch you off from you sharing, and then I come back with something more interesting.
Right.
For me, I felt that a lot of these things that you've shared were so authentic, so vulnerable, and we maybe met say 5 6 times, or maybe even a maximum 8 times. How is that you're able to trust somebody so quickly, and what's your experience with that?
Yeah. So my personal experience and also in the work that I do, I feel that it's very important for us to connect as human beings. Uh, and being a human being means sharing your vulnerability, sharing your strength, sharing your success, everything. So, also, I have learned that because somebody, without any shame attached, without any hesitation, shared about Alcoholics Anonymous with us, you know, we could, we are where we are today, right? So, every opportunity I get, I'd like to talk about these, places, because I feel even if like, of the 100 people who listen, if one person, is going through this or knows of somebody who's going through this, then, maybe they can reach out and say, oh, can you share our experience, right? So for me, I feel whether it's mental health, whether it's alcoholism, whether it is this adoption, or anything that a human being is going through, the more we talk about it, the more normal it becomes, the more accepted it becomes. So I feel grateful that people shared these with me, and I'm just passing it on by at least talking about my experiences. I'm not a big ambassador of anything, but wherever possible, I talk about how this has impacted my life, and yeah, with the hope that someone somewhere finds something here.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I think sharing authentically automatically is an invitation to people saying, I trust you, and you can also trust me with something like this. So, what are some of the things that that have come through in your biography work that has that has stunned you?
Um, yeah, so you mean in my own biography, work that I did with myself or with people that I
Yeah.
work with? What I mean,
uh,
it's like
so
I do
I was
both.
more looking at the latter, but then quite interesting that you also do biography work with yourself.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, very important because every time I work with people, uh, one, I'm listening to their stories and I'm seeing what's emerging. And there are many, many times when it connects to who I am, right? So I'll speak about both cases very briefly. So the one thing when I worked with my own self was something that I'm very close to as a topic that I'm working on right now. It's going on in my head, so it's just coming as something that I'd like to share is intergenerational pattern, right? Like the way I was parented by my parents, somehow in my growing up years, I had a narrative that said that this is not how I'm going to be, right? I'm going to be different as a mother or as a parent. And I keep that narrative in mind and I'm operating from that space as a parent. And uh, and you think that you're being different, but you know how, if you really look at it very objectively, then you see that there are still things that you're carrying as by imitation you're doing it. And then it's like, you know uh, oh my god, this is something that I've been not wanting to do to avoid, and here I have been doing it. Either it comes from your children, it comes from reflecting on what you're doing. So this intergenerational pattern is something that not just in parenting but in couple of places this has come out, that I think I'm doing differently, but actually there are many many places where I'm not doing it differently. So to become aware, so I'm doing it as a learned behavior, and where can I stop and say, okay, this is a habit. Now if I have to break it, then I have to be in the conscious space, in the awareness, and work one step at a time in breaking this. So this is something that has really struck me in the personal space. With people I work with, what strikes me each time, whether it's a workshop I do, whether it is individual work I do, that people have unique stories which nobody else has, and yet there are so many common elements to it. So it's like, how is that even possible across cultures, across countries, across genders? I mean, how is it possible? So, how is it that we are unique and yet we are so similar? So that is something that keeps popping up. And I've done so many, stories, and yet every time it comes, I'm like in awe of it, like wonder, wow, it's happening again. Like, so yes.
That is brilliant. What gives you joy about the whole auto the biography space? Not that about.
Yeah. So I have always been a listener. I've always been somebody, even in my childhood and growing up years, I've always been somebody who's created a space for others to be in a non-formal way at that point. But now I'm becoming aware that me just being there, me just listening to people, uh, you know, it's almost like just yesterday I got told by somebody who did one of my workshops. She wanted to share something with me, and then when she left, she gave me a hug and she said, "You are like the mother I never had." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I mean, first thing was like, I don't want to be a mother anymore. I've had enough children. Now I'm like held space. But then the hugeness of that somebody could say that what she meant was that you're holding this space, or you're giving me this guidance or whatever, which I should have got from somebody else. So the enormity of the space that I hold for people. So even outside my sessions, people reach out more to me outside my sessions and say, can we talk for 2 minutes, please, please, please? So it's like, at times it's very irritating and it's like a little draining on me. Yet I realize the importance of, having somebody you can just speak to. And I also look at it as, uh, some kind of a success, that, I've been able to create this space where they feel they can share anything, that they will not be judged, that they just want to vent out and they can listen. So yeah, that's something that is very, very important to me.
I somehow get a parallel to it. So when you give to somebody and they come back to you and you don't like it, it's such a huge emotion that when it comes to specific,
Yes.
like I
Yes.
have worked with the CSR thing. So for us, it's like we've been there like so many times, and then like out of nowhere they come give you a hug and say, "Oh, sir, how many? It's been months since we met. How are you? What is that you're doing?"
Right.
And they're strangers. They're absolute strangers. You haven't really given them, individual attention, but then just you being there means so much to them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
fascinating, like I for one, I think maybe also the question is like working with people is so amazing. You've so many things that are coming through, and it's such a strong connection when you work with people.
Yeah,
Listen to them,
absolutely.
be there with them, and I think
Yeah.
even coaching also somewhere out there moved on the same space.
Yes, yes. And with all this artificial intelligence and technology, everything that comes up, nothing can replace the human warmth, right? The warmth,
Absolutely,
actually,
absolutely.
the warmth that the human being creates. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that's fascinating.
Yes.
So, and as they say in coaching, what did you learn about yourself today?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So how's it been switching also on the coach, hat of a coach? So how's been that journey?
Yeah, it's been interesting, uh, because I've been wanting to move a little beyond this space of anthroposophy, biography work, which is a very, small space and not very known in India, at least. So the whole attempt at, going on to a bigger stage was what got me to coaching. But the journey was very interesting because, again, there came a time when I had to unlearn. Right, coaching is about, the present and future, whereas biography work is also about present and future, but first going into the past, looking at, learnings, patterns and stuff like that. So for me it was very difficult initially to, switch these hats. But coaching has given many wonderful tools, which, I'm able to integrate with the work that I do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to moving in this journey also, and also moving on to a bigger stage through coaching, which is more widely known. Yeah.
That is interesting. So
Yeah.
I think just to put you on that, like now with my experiences, coaching is IIT coaching.
Yes, we're talking
So
about
I don't
yes.
know how